Well, the Minister of Communications, obviously a member of Parliament of the ANC, is here. We just want to find out if they are ready for this vote. Minister, are you ready to go?
We are ready to go. We have a mandate from the party. And we are ready.
Communications Minister for the ANC is going to tell us the readiness of the ANC.
We are going to caucus now as a party for the party message to be communicated to us, but we know that we have a mandate. We are going to vote against the panel report as the ANC because that's what the party has decided, but also because that panel report is not credible enough and there are enough holes on that report. So we are going to use our numbers as the ANC because we cannot be dictated to by a panel that has not been consistent, that has not been fair, that has not been objective. What we expected from members of the judiciary and officers who are members of the judiciary is them to be objective in doing their work and not to then use hearsay. And that's what our commitment is, and we are here as the ANC and we are not going to be bullied by anyone.
So, some opposition parties have been saying you are actually abusing your majority instead of holding the president accountable. What's your response?
It's not an abuse of our majority. You cannot hold the president to account on unfair reports. At a minimum, the report should have been fair, it should have been objective, and we are willing to hold the president to account. And not only that, our president has always been available to be accountable to this country for everything and anything that he does. We cannot be apologizing. The opposition parties are entitled to their views. Their views inform that they do not want the ANC to remain in power, and they'll do everything to destabilize the ANC, and we cannot be destabilized by the opposition parties.
But Minister, there are people within your very party who also think that things should move forward and that there should be a committee process where witnesses could be subpoenaed and this could be ventilated more thoroughly. Is this not being obstructive to the democratic process in Parliament?
I don't understand when you say it's obstructive. Remember, the process says there is a report that gets done, and the report has to be considered by Parliament, and the Parliament must decide to adopt the report or to reject the report. And we're saying first, as a basis of that report is unfair, it's unobjective, it's biased, and that the least we expected from the people who constituted the panel is that they should have been objective. But when that report is not objective, it's not obstruction when we say we cannot be bullied by a report that is not fair. You cannot, because things are wrong, you cannot be agreeing because everybody says, no, we must agree. We cannot just agree for the sake of agreeing.
So are you saying if a second report was done that was more even-handed in the view of the ANC caucus and was level and did not include hearsay, the ANC would back a second phase of the process?
Depending on what that report will find. See, depending on what that report will find, and we are glad that the president is taking the report on review so that that report can then be dealt with its credibility, because it's not credible. You have had members of society, you have had esteemed lawyers and members of the judiciary saying that report is flawed. So it's I don't know why we're even having this discussion. That report is flawed. It must be rejected for all its intents and purposes, and we move on as a country. And there's other reports that are coming through. They allow the police to investigate. The Infococks are investigating. There is process to hold those accountable if there's anything that's untoward. And we deal with this as if the president has stolen money from somebody. It's his money, it's his private property, it's not government's money. So why do we want to jump up and down as if it's taxpayers' money? It's not taxpayers' money.
But other members of your party feel otherwise, feel that the president has to account and this process should be done openly. What happens to those members that say they won't toe the party line and will vote for the report to be adopted? What's going to happen?
The ANC has its own processes to deal with its members. When the party line has come out, the party line has come out. I can't speak on behalf of the ANC leadership on what they do with members who do not want to follow the party line. There's disciplinary mechanisms within the ANC that has to be followed. I need to go there.
Minister, just a quick 30 seconds. When are we having the SABC report?
I'm waiting for Parliament to give me the list and we'll submit to the President.
Well, thank you very much, Minister. Well, there was the Minister of Communications there, of course, basically telling us that they are ready and they will reject the report. And then she's basically saying the party has issued an instruction. They are clear what they are going to do about this. And of course, she is going back in there. So we understand already, Naledi and Desiree, that the discussions are already hot inside the ANC caucus, where there are those perhaps who are known to want this report to be adopted. And of course, in terms of what the NEC has said, they've basically said this must be rejected. So it will be very interesting to hear. So what exactly in the final analysis will the vote be? But of course, I suspect the ANC will, in this matter, Mantashe is here, so he will marshal the forces. In the end, we expect that overwhelmingly the ANC may reject the report, but it's interesting to check what those rebels will do. And of course, we are having a number of other stakeholders, political parties, who are giving their views as well, as my colleague Bulelani Philip is standing on the other side as well to give us his take with the Good Party. Bulelani?
Well, thank you so much, Mzwai. And of course, we are going to be giving you some of the political parties that are represented in the National Assembly to give their views in terms of how they intend to vote when it comes to the debate of that Section 89 Independent Panel Report. Now, the party that may find itself in a tricky position, given that one of its members serves in cabinet in the form of Public Works and Infrastructure Minister Patricia de Lille. And of course, the other Good Party MP in Parliament is Mr. Brett Heron. Mr. Heron, thank you so much for joining us. As the Good Party, you might find it difficult in terms of formulating a position in this debate, or not?
No, we don't have a difficulty arising out of the fact that our leader serves in the cabinet. There's no coalition agreement and there's no agreement between ourselves and the ANC that we're bound by the ANC's voting patterns. We vote independently, and so that doesn't create a difficulty for us. What does create a difficulty for us is the fact that this report is being taken on review by the President, and as it stands now, the recommendations by the independent panel say that there's a prima facie case that the President may have breached the Constitution or the law, and that report has been taken on review. What will happen today, if the National Assembly rejects that report on the basis of the review, and the review is unsuccessful, it'll put an end to the matter, even though the review is unsuccessful. And so that would be an irrational and probably a wrong decision by Parliament today. If Parliament goes ahead and the review is successful, in other words, the President is able to set it aside, then that would also be wrong and unlawful, because the work of the impeachment committee would be unlawful and wasteful. So we have submitted a amendment or a resolution to the Speaker that we wish to table today after the debate that calls for the impeachment committee's work to be deferred until the review is concluded, accepting in principle that we move to stage 2 of the impeachment inquiry. And if the President's review fails, the impeachment committee commences its work. If the President's review succeeds, the impeachment committee is obviously moot.
So would you argue that today's debate and vote is premature, in your view?
The debate must take place today, but to some extent it is premature because there is the review, and we can't ignore the fact that there's a review. Legal experts ourselves, we think there is merit in some parts of that review application. There's important constitutional and legal concepts that need the Constitutional Court to guide South Africa on for this process and for future processes. And so it's not a fanciful review, it's a serious review. And so it would be premature, certainly, for an impeachment committee to commence conducting inquiries and conducting hearings while the review is underway. And so what we really need is the Constitutional Court to deal with this matter as quickly as possible, to allow us to understand whether we should proceed with the Section 89 Phase 2 process or not.
Given your expression on the misgivings of the independent panel report, would it be safe to conclude that you intend to vote to reject that report?
No, as I say, we're proposing our own resolution. We're hoping that the National Assembly will be persuaded by this sensible approach that says there is a review, we can't ignore it. It would be wrong to reject a report on the basis of an unconclusive or inconclusive review application, but it would also be wrong to proceed to the next phase while the founding document for that next phase is under review and may be rejected. So we are hoping to persuade the National Assembly to adopt the sensible approach that the Section 89 Phase 2 process is in principle accepted, but that the commencement of the inquiry is deferred until the review is concluded.
I'm just trying to get to a simple answer, whether will you support or will you vote to reject the report?
We are, we have our own resolution, which we're going to table today, and we're going to vote for that. So,
well, if the House does not get to that point or gets to that point after or before the proceedings of today go ahead, as the good party, do you intend to vote for or against the report?
No, the tabling of our motion will be after the debate and as the resolution is put. So we won't know before or after whether the resolution is on the table or not, or going to be accepted or not. The debate will commence. The debate will close. The Speaker will propose a resolution. We will then propose our amendment, and at that point we hope to persuade the National Assembly to vote for our amendment.
The majority party has already indicated that it intends to vote to reject the report, and given the historic or the precedent that has been there, that they normally get their way in terms of the resolutions of the House. Now, if that is the case today, and the good party is called upon to vote for the report, where's your stance?
I must repeat myself. If the ANC, as a majority party, votes to reject the report based entirely on the review, even though the review hasn't been concluded, and so there's no way of knowing whether the Section 89 independent panel's findings are lawful or not, that would be an irrational decision by the House, because if the review is not successful, then what happens to the to the independent panel's findings and the case that the President supposedly has to answer? So we're really hoping to persuade this House that the most sensible thing to do is to defer the work of the impeachment committee, but to allow Section 89 to proceed to the second phase.
All right, lastly, Brett, as the good party, do you feel confidence in the leadership of President Cyril Ramaphosa?
Well, if you want us to base it on this report alone...
Generally, I mean, there were other issues that have been raised in the other impeachment and motion of no confidence motions that have been pending before the House. As the good party, do you have confidence in the President?
We have confidence in the President. There are obviously concerns that we have around some failures. In particular, the one that was announced last week. The President promised 5,200 extra megawatts to be procured in phase 6 of the bid process to try and alleviate our energy crisis. We're currently in a terrible energy crisis right now as we speak, and for some reason Eskom and the Department of Minerals and Energy have only released less than 1,000 megawatts. So there are some questions that we have for the President, but overall we have confidence in the President.
All right, thank you so much, Brett Heron, a good party MP in the National Assembly, giving us the party's views and how they intend to bring their own motion when this debate is concluded and there is a resolution that is called upon. But for more reaction, I'm going to cross back to you, Mzwai.
Well, thank you very much, Bulelane. Of course, we've heard there from Brett Heron of the Good Party basically saying they do have confidence in the President, except that they are concerned about a few issues, obviously, that have arisen. I may just add that the leader of the Good Party is serving in the cabinet of President Ramaphosa, so there's a bit of context as well that we need to get from them. With me, though, is the leader of the PAC, Mzwanele Nyotso, who will share his thoughts about this process that will be unfolding at around 2 o'clock. But before we speak about what will happen today, we do understand that he has received some death threats around this matter. He will explain more what exactly is happening. Mr. Nyotso, we understand that you've been receiving death threats, particularly relating to what is going to be happening. Just tell us what exactly is the situation.
I really don't know, but I just received an SMS to say if tomorrow you are voting in favor of the ATM motion, you and Olomisa, your days of living are numbered. So I've already opened the case with the police. I'm waiting for the case number. But there are those threats, yes.
Voting with Olomisa, what does it mean? Is it voting with the ANC or voting against?
He said you and Olomisa, should you support the motion of ATM, your days of living are numbered. We are going to deal with you. So I don't know what does that mean.
Okay, but the case is open.
The case is open.
Okay.
Yes.
Well, back to the business of the day. How are you voting?
I'm voting for Parliament. This is a parliamentary process, and this process is going to give the President an opportunity to come up with his side of the story. He must account. It is my job and my responsibility as an MP to keep the executive accountable. So I'll be voting in favor of the accountability.
So which means in favor of the report?
Definitely, I'll be voting in favor of the report. The President has a case to answer.
The majority party, which is the governing party, has just said, in fact, we've just spoken to the Minister of Communications, who also is an MP. She is saying, well, this report is flawed. Many people have come out against it, and there's no need for them to vote for it, so they are going to reject it. So as matters stands, when you look at the numbers, so clearly your vote will be defeated.
It doesn't matter, but the electorate and masses of our people will know that the ANC that is protecting corruption. The masses out there, people who are suffering, people who are living in squalor, they can never celebrate when the number one member of the country is sleeping on top of billions, when they don't have anything to eat at night, when they don't have shelter on top of their heads. So it is up to the ANC if they want to shield corruption. This is what they've done during the Nkandla report, and at some point it was them who are still talking about Zuma being corrupt more than us today. They are more Catholic than the Pope. This is what they are going to say. It is not about the president, it is about protecting their own interests.
Well, you have actually mentioned the example of what happened during the previous time when former President Zuma was in power. So you are saying this is out there to the electorate to see.
Yes.
But we've been here before.
Yes.
Last time you guys were saying the same thing, but the electorate still said, we believe in you. So what makes you think the electorate will behave differently this time around?
But look at the results of the previous elections. They have lost. It's just that it was local government elections. So the electorate are talking. So come 2024, even now the percentage is going down every election. So electorate is talking. We can't say they are not talking. They are.
But the electorate doesn't seem to have an alternative. What they basically are doing is that they are not voting for the ANC and somehow leaving others just like that. So why are you not able to convince the electorate that while the governing party is not best for you, we are the right ones?
It is our responsibility to do that, and that is what we are doing now. The problem, the electorate does not mean they don't want opposition parties, but the way the ruling party is corrupt, the way they have led this country, the way they have betrayed what we fought for before 1994, has made electorate not to take politics and politicians seriously. So it is our responsibility to go to them and tell them that it is not about ANC, it is about you. To sit back home, not come and vote, doesn't help your cause either. Come and vote for us.
It may seem they are not convinced because that's exactly what they do.
And they will be convinced to come 2024. Don't worry, they are coming now. You can see everywhere people are complaining, everywhere people are seeing the light at the end of the tunnel. At some point, people were arrogant, saying we will rule until Jesus Christ comes. But they are losing metros everywhere. There's no Jesus Christ there.
So in the event the report is rejected by the majority party, what are you going to do as PAC?
We will take it from there. We don't know. We feel that the report is going to see the light of the day. Then if it doesn't, we'll get there. We'll see what to do.
Motion of no confidence, are you sponsoring that one as well?
Definitely. We can't have confidence if someone is pointed, is fingered by judicial persons. Remember, the president said, I will resign if I'm fingered. He is fingered. Why is he not resigning?
Oh, well, it's just a matter of hours before we hear the debate, and then we see how all of you as parliamentarians vote. All the best.
Thank you.
Well, you have heard there, the parties are quite buoyant that they will be able to turn the situation around. They know the ANC has the majority, and the ANC has come out very, very clearly. In fact, when I was speaking to the Minister of Communications earlier, she made it clear that so this report, as far as they are concerned, they are a non-starter. Right now, the caucus of the ANC is currently meeting. Of course, we are not privy to what exactly is transpiring, but we do get a sense from sources that there are people who have been known to be vocal against the president. Dr. Nkosazana Dlamini Zuma, Supra Mahumapelo and Lindiwe Sisulu, we do get told that they've stood up, they've been saying actually this report must be supported. But of course, until there is confirmation to that, we'll treat that as a rumor. So the ANC caucus will then have a united position, and I'm sure the different views that are happening there will be part of what they call robust engagement. So we continue with this coverage where my colleague Bulelani is standing by with Jama-ah as well to get its take. In fact, Jama-ah is one of the parties, Desiree and Naledi, which has said they are not supporting this report. So basically, we suspect they may vote with the ANC. Bulelani?
Well, thank you so much, Mzwai. Of course, we can see to our left is that there's quite a lot of ANC MPs that have been streaming out of the City Hall. It would look like perhaps maybe that caucus meeting is actually over by now. I see the Basic Education Minister, Ms. Angie Motshekga, also making her way out, as well as Minister Lindiwe Sisulu had actually left a bit of a time ago. But of course, now we're going to take more reactions right here on the precinct of the Cape Town City Hall, where we bring in Mr. Muhammad Hendricks, the president of Jama-ah. Mr. Hendricks, of course, this Section 89 Independent Panel Report will be debated on. As Jama-ah, where do you stand in terms of, do you support the report or do you reject it?
Jama-ah has looked at the report, and we don't agree with the allegations that are made in the report because it doesn't have what we call evidentiary muster. The report is the allegations made by 3 or 4 political parties. It wasn't affidavits, it wasn't made under oath. It is allegations, and Jama-ah's position is that it doesn't have sufficient evidence that has legal muster to make an informed decision. We are also guided by the Constitution, which says that in order to impeach a president of South Africa, there must be gross violation of the Constitution. We see nothing in the report, in our view, that there has been gross violation. Even in the case of President Zuma, the Constitutional Court did not find gross violation. So the onus to prove gross violation is very strict. So the evidence we have before us is not sufficient to make an informed decision. So Jama-ah will obviously note the report. We will thank the panel for coming to the assistance of Parliament to give some input in what is a preliminary inquiry. We feel that the debate today is wasteful expenditure, that we should have waited until the elective conference of the African National Congress.
But why should the independent institution, which is one of the arms of the state, should wait for a party political event and not execute its constitutional mandate?
We are not waiting for a party conference. We are just being very realistic that there was an election in 2021. The nation elected the African National Congress to nominate the president to the country. They given these powers to branches. The branches will then decide in a week's time who they're going to nominate as president. If President Ramaphosa is nominated as the president, then I feel it's the right time to have this debate and to follow the procedures of Parliament. So Parliament also sometimes have to be pragmatic, and we feel that the Speaker was too hasty because the 13 political parties in Parliament are not branches of the ANC. And so we feel, Jama-ah feels that, like I said earlier on, we don't accept the allegations. However, we are very concerned that the African National Congress is trying to stifle the process of Parliament.
But do you think that the manner that the ANC has approached this matter, is it a political decision or it is an issue of all the MPs upholding and protecting the oath of office that they've taken?
Look, we feel that the ANC hands are not clean, that they are trying to stifle the procedures of Parliament, and like you indicated, that members of Parliament took an oath of office in Parliament and not an oath of office at Lutuli House. So it is very important for the members of Parliament today to exercise their own judgment in this matter, and Jama-ah is concerned and alarmed that that the ANC is trying to stifle the process of Parliament, preventing members of Parliament, for example, to vote on this matter with their conscience and what they feel is best for their constituency, and not what is best for the ANC and its factional battles.
Lastly, if you do feel that the ANC, as you've said that they are stifling this issue, and if you feel that some of the members were not given the right to actually vote with their conscience, what then will you do as Jama-ah?
Look, it is quite clear that the ANC is trying to prevent some of their members to go against the caucus decision. We saw that in the matter relating to the public protector, where 60 members of the ANC abstained from voting and they went against a caucus decision. So Jama-ah feels that ANC members of Parliament are members of integrity, that like in the case of the public protector, those who want to support the report, who feels there is sufficient evidence, which Jama-ah disagrees with. We don't believe in the allegations, but there may be ANC members who believe in the allegations for their own factional battles that they have in the party.
All right, thank you so much, Mr. Mohammed Hendricks, the president of Jama-ah, of course, giving us his party's views in terms of how they intend to approach this debate and vote this afternoon. For more reaction, we're going to cross back to Mzwai.
Well, of course, we did indicate that we'll be giving you a number of voices we've been hearing from the opposition parties. And of course, the members of the governing party are also here. I think they've just concluded their caucus now, and I guess they have a clear position. In fact, with me is a member of parliament, of course, in his own right. He may be a deputy minister, but he's a member of parliament, so Phumulo Masualle. And also, I'll also steal that hat that he wants to wear, that of wanting to be the Secretary General of the ANC on the so-called slate of Zweli Mkhize. Before we get to that, let's just get to hear, so how have they been marshaled in terms of voting as the report comes up at 2 o'clock? Mr. Masualle, you've just been in a caucus, so how are you voting as the ANC today?
Well, to be quite honest, I got to the caucus towards the end. The mood I'm getting is that the leadership has put across a view that is uniting, in the sense that it does call for the president ultimately to come and answer to the things, but of course having cleared those areas for which there are misgivings. So the mood, as I read, is that there is somewhat a common view as to how to proceed.
Okay, let me put it very bluntly. You are voting against this report?
The report, not in its entirety as far as I have heard. What the leadership has crafted is somewhat a report that accommodates the fact that where there are questions to be answered, the process shouldn't be stymied as such. Those questions are not answered. But certainly where there are misgivings about the report, let the process be opened up for those misgivings to be cleared.
So what does this mean? I think the question will be yes or no. And obviously there are issues. So will you be saying no to the report, but let's start a process to get the president to account? Is that what you're saying?
It's not everything in life that can be put in such contrasts, black or white. There's a lot in between. My view is that what the leadership is trying to craft is something that accommodates the middle.
You keep stressing the leadership. What are you saying as a member of parliament? Remember, you take the oath on your own. We know that you get sent by the party, but once you take that oath, you are Phumulo Masualle representing all of us. What are you saying?
Absolutely. What I'm saying is that accountability cannot be compromised. Where there are issues in respect of the report in terms of some of the findings, where there is remedies to be sought, let the remedies be sought, but the report cannot be just trashed.
Phumulo Masualle, how is he voting as a member of parliament?
I'm going to vote for that which accommodates all these concerns I've just referred to you.
But the vote is a yes and no.
I am not so sure you are a member of parliament. I'm saying the report is crafted in such a manner. The question to be put is that of accommodating all the concerns, and that is what has got to be responded to.
But you will be going with the party line?
Of course, certainly yes, I will be going with the party line.
Okay, well, let me just steal another second. So how is your campaign for Secretary General going?
It is going on very well. I'm actually quite... I'm really very excited at the receptivity one has been getting right across the country. I think we are in for a very exciting conference, and I look forward to it.
Well, before you've made it clear that you are supporting the candidature of Zweli Mkhize, do you still hold that view that the president maybe must go?
I hold the view that the ANC needs to be refreshed going forward, and I hold the view that the president as we have, we may need to change that, I think, get someone else. I hold that view.
So let's just put it very clear. Let's not be diplomatic. You want the president to go. Not necessarily in this parliament, but in the next 4 days?
As head of the ANC, I think we need to have a new person to take on the cudgels. I don't think that's diplomatic. It's clear enough.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Well, you've had it there for yourself. The nominee to be Secretary General, and then of course the Member of Parliament. So he is really finding it very difficult to put it very bluntly in terms of voting. But I think the party has issued a very strict line that they will reject the report. And of course, he says they've crafted a way to say as much as they'll reject the report, the accountability mechanisms still must be put in place. And of course, Desiree and Naledi, when it comes to the issue of his campaign to be Secretary General and his slate, I know that the NC has been refusing to speak about slate, but we know that he's been supporting Dr. Zweli Mkhize. He is basically saying he's adamant on that one. There's nothing diplomatic about it. Come, that is in 4 days, when Nasrec happens, he wants to see a new face as the president of the ANC. So that's quite interesting. In fact, there's some activity next to me here. We saw someone like Kalni House. They were protesting. I don't know what's happening. We're seeing the police. I think the group which is opposed to the president is trying to, I don't know whether we're trying to cross that barrier. And then in the process, I think the police just came in, Desiree, as you can see there. One of the people, I think, who is there, as I've indicated, is Kalni House. And I'm sure you would try to get, I mean, in terms of that picture, yes, the police are obviously removing them, the group that has come to say Ramaphosa must fall. So that's quite interesting. So, yeah, that's how things are folding out outside Parliament as we expect the events to take place inside. There are those who have come to say, well, we've always made our views public about what we want in terms of President Cyril Ramaphosa, Kalni House being the one of them. In fact, it is Kalni House that is being removed from where he was. We will find out later on, so what exactly was the issue? Did they get permission to be here, or they simply just came? So they are moving him, the police are moving him now with a group of people that are there. So yeah, things are turning out quite differently outside. That's before the big thing happens later today here in Parliament. So I think they feel it's safe where he is now. He's been relentless, Desiree, you would know, and Naledi. Wherever the issue around the president has been happening, Kalni House has always been there. And
I've got the right to say that Ramaphosa must go. I've got the right to demand that our members of parliament must do the right thing and accept the report of the independent panel. We are being intimidated, we're being shoved, we are being pushed. This is exactly what I experienced in the past under the apartheid regime. We are now living under a dictatorship by Cyril Ramaphosa. It is a shame that a democratic parliament should behave like this. This is not democracy. This is intimidation. This is the destruction of the right to freedom of speech. I'm absolutely disgusted.
If the ANC votes to reject that report,
it will be a shame if the ANC votes to reject that report. ANC members of parliament must act in terms of their conscience. And if they act in terms of their conscience, they will vote for the acceptance of that report, because that report is the report of the whole of parliament. All members of parliament appointed that independent panel. I am very angry this morning that when I want to express my democratic view, that I get pushed and shoved as if I am an unacceptable person, as if I am not a citizen of this country. I will stand for my rights. I fought for those rights. I went to prison for those rights. I joined the ANC for those rights. I will not allow those rights to be taken away from me. This is the action of a police state. These are people who behave like dictators. They are behaving like dictators under Cyril Ramaphosa. This is not the protection I expect from the police. The police must protect. They must not intimidate, attack, and repress freedom of speech.
as an expelled member of the ANC, do you think you have standing to be making this call to the ANC?
Of course, and I'm not expelled. I've lodged my appeal. The appeal means that my expulsion has now been suspended. I'm a full member of the ANC, and whether I was a member of the ANC or not is irrelevant. I'm a citizen of this country, and I can exert my rights to freedom of citizenship and freedom of speech as every other South African, as protected in the Constitution. That Constitution that all of us fought for, to get rid of racism and oppression and have freedom in this country.
Will you also protest outside the ANC National Conference?
Of course, I've done so in front of other NEC meetings. I will continue to do so also on the 16th of December outside the ANC conference in Nazareth. In fact, I am due to be a delegate at that conference since my membership is now back instated, since I have lodged that appeal. I intend to attend that conference as a delegate of the ANC, calling for Cyril Ramaphosa to be removed as president of the ANC and subsequently also as president of the country.
Mr. Kalniaus, thank you so much for your time and all the best.
Thank you.
Well, the expelled member of the ANC, the Kalniaus, and we know that yesterday he was actually expelled from the ANC, remember, relating to some of his utterances that he made a couple of months ago. But of course, he is appealing that. And then he remains very adamant that the president must go. In fact, before we even saw what was happening outside, we had just spoken to Phumulo Masualle, who also is holding a view similar to Kalniaus. Of course, he's expressing it in a much different way than what Kalniaus is doing. And then every occasion where either the president is being discussed or where the president has been, where possible, Kalniaus has been there to say the president needs to go. So we saw that today. So, but it's interesting, really, that he is calling for the president to go, but effectively the ANC has expelled him. Yes, we know that because he's appealing, so that's expulsion. So, I think it's not holding at the moment. So, clearly, this raises a bigger issue rather than really the optics of what we are seeing. So, we have always said the governing party is really going through the most difficult time in terms of the divisions. Even if you listened to Phumulo Masualle, who's a member of parliament, as much as he is holding the party line, but you can see he's very uncomfortable because he wants the president to account. Actually, he's come out very clearly to say, come Nasrec, the president needs to be changed. So we know he supports Dr. Zweli Mkhize. So this is what makes this session very interesting as well, this session of parliament. As much as all of us, or maybe many of us, expect the ANC to win this round, many are actually looking out for those who are called rebels, those who will not necessarily toe the party line. Some people have been public about it, that they may not toe the party line. In fact, Supra Mahumapelo, Mervyn Dex are some of those who have just come out very clearly. But other people really that are of interest are those who, within the structures of the ANC, have been calling for the president to step aside, particularly as this report has happened. So we know that Dr. Dlamini Zuma has made that one very clear. Lindiwe Sisulu has made that one very, very clear. So now comes the time. So will they hold the party line? Because the party line basically says, protect the president. Or they will say, we have said the president needs to go. So it goes beyond that. And also what is interesting is that we are having all this 3 days before the conference. This conference is set to elect the leadership. Of course, the president is the leading candidate. He has nominations twice the nearest rival, that is Dr. Zweli Mkhize. So it's going to be very interesting. So as we expect proceedings to get underway at 2 o'clock here, we also are aware that this has to do with national politics that will play itself out at Nasrec in the next 3 to 4 days.